I mean, we could do Star Trek.
Good.
Or would you like keep thinking?
Do whatever
He
you
keeps
want.
vetoing it every time you say you want to do Star Trek. It's like,
It's actually a
no,
good movie.
solid movie.
It's okay.
Corbin's a hater.
I don't think he's ever seen it.
I saw it when it came out in theaters.
Like
So he doesn't
2009.
remember it, is what that
No
means.
fucking chance you saw it in 2009 in theaters.
Yeah, I did. My mom's a big Star Trek fan. We went.
Yeah, you don't remember it. I don't remember anything I did in
I mean,
2009.
I've seen it since then.
Anywho,
Hello and welcome to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about whatever we want because it's KHAP Chat number 3 today. As always, I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel, and joining me is my co-host, Kody Webb. Webb, you excited to chat today?
I'm very excited to chat. It's a beautiful day. It's kind of the turn of the summer season here. I'm in a great mood, and yeah, gonna have a fun pod, I think. So I can't complain.
This is the third edition of our KHAP Chat series. If you want to check out some of our other ones, you can go back to season 3, episode 11 with Luke Manning, or season 4, episode 14 with Christian Steiner. Two great conversations just about a couple different random movies. We do have another guest today. We got to welcome back to the show one of the hosts of our April Fool's episode, my girlfriend, and Kody, not to make you jealous, but my current roommate, Nacke. Mina, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be back. Hope you guys all enjoyed that April Fool's episode.
I definitely enjoyed it.
I did as well.
Gotta talk about our favorite sparkly vampires.
It was good to not have Kody and I.
I'd take Mina and Natalie over us most days, and yeah, great April Fool's episode, I would say.
Most of our viewers probably would as well, but sadly, they're stuck with us today, but they do get Mina for another episode. I do want to say, leave us a like if you're watching this on YouTube, comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at KHAP Podcast, rate us on Spotify, follow us on Spotify, leave us a review on Apple, wherever you're consuming this. Just leave us some feedback. Let us know. And yeah, share the pod with friends. Let us know if you want to be a guest.
I think a decent amount of people do end up going over to YouTube and watching that. Leave comments on there, guys. Like, yeah, keep chipping in, make this more of a community. I think that'd be fun.
Absolutely. And let us know what you think about our thoughts on the movies we talk about today. Specifically, the way this is going to work is we're switching things up a little bit, but first we're going to draw a card from the Blockbuster movie game, a storied game in the history of our podcast through We Have a Podgrythm and our various KHAP Chats episodes. But we're going to draw a card, and they list things like movies with an "and" in the title, which is one we did for our last episode, or movies with a number in a title, or movies set in the future, for example, which may be contentious if you say Star Wars is set in the future. But we're each going to name a movie, and then we're just going to chat about it for, an unspecified amount of time. We'll see where the conversation takes us, maybe go down the rabbit hole a little bit. We're just going to see what happens. And it's very free flowing, laid back. For our second card, instead of sticking with the Blockbuster movie game, we're going to move over to a game called Cinephile, which Mina and I love to play together, where all the cards are just actors. So for example, I just drew one out. Christian Bale would be the first card. And then we're just going to each pick a movie from that actor's various filmographies, and we're going to discuss that. So that's how we're going to be coming up with our different movies.
Cinephile, a much better group game than a duo game. Just gotta say. It's just a heads up if anyone wants to play it. Make sure you got at least 3 people.
Very true. Very true. Before we draw a card, though, let's talk about some new movies. Because Kody, I know you've been into the theater. Mina and I have been going to the theater. There's a couple new releases. Normally we'd save this for the end, but it's a KHAP Chat, so we can do whatever the fuck we want. Let's talk about Air, which I know you're a huge fan of, Kody.
Yeah, I was a big fan. I don't know. I kind of went in with not knowing what to expect a little bit. Matt and Ben, I don't know. They haven't worked in a while together. The Last Duel, I didn't check out.
No, I don't think anybody did.
With that budget too, tough. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I think just the dialogue itself kind of speaks for itself. And some really fun performances. Ben Affleck, Phil Knight. Yeah. I thought he was really funny in that role. And Matt Damon was low-key a powerhouse. Viola Davis as well was really, really good. So cast-wise, it was on point. Script-wise, I thought it was really good. I don't know, it's just something about it's not really a sports movie, I guess. It definitely is, but not really.
It's like a marketing movie.
Yeah, but it had that Moneyball feel to me for some reason. I really liked it, and I might go see it again in theaters. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
Yeah,
Cody, it was a bunch of white dudes in rooms talking, so it
was.
definitely felt like Moneyball. But yeah, it's definitely not as good as Moneyball. It
No.
is a little bit lacking, but I really enjoyed it as well. Mina and I went and saw it last Friday. Matt and Ben, I'm gonna love and support anything that those two do, especially together. Especially working on this new movie. They've started their production company, Artist Equity. All the profits are being shared amongst the actual people who are making it, which is something really cool and is obviously, not to spoil anything in the movie, but it's significant. That idea kind of is very significant to the movie itself as well. Mina, did you enjoy it?
I mean, it's hard not to enjoy a movie with Ben Affleck wearing like hot pink leggings, and that's quite the look. Gotta love the 80s. Yeah, it's a really good movie. I think something that I have to get past with movies like this is there's always the suspense of you don't know what's going to happen, but this is our history, so of course we know what's going to happen. And so when I watch movies like that, I have to like actively pull myself out of that mindset continuously throughout the movie because I just get annoyed. I'm like, well, yeah, of course he's going to sign, stuff like that. Other than that, I really liked it. I think it's a great cast. Everyone works really well together. Can't go wrong with Viola Davis. She's just phenomenal in whatever she does. And I think it's a fun watch, especially if you like shoes and kind of want to go buy some new Nikes, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue with all true stories is of if the events that happen, there's not really any avoiding that. But when it's something as iconic as Michael Jordan signing with Nike in 1984, like it is still pretty incredibly impressive that the script and Ben Affleck's directing and editing is still able to build a little bit of tension leading up to that final act moment.
Something I really liked was the in-depth of them designing the shoe. I thought that was a really cool point that they clearly made sure to show is them discussing what the shoe needed to look like and what it needed to feel like. And I think that's something you don't always get out of movies like this. You more just want to hear about them talking to each other and haggling over each other. But like what the shoe was a big part of it, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and it was cool to highlight that Peter Moore character, the designer of the shoe. Sadly, they kind of highlight at the end that he passed away right before they greenlit the movie, so he never got to enjoy the limelight of being celebrated. But it was definitely cool all around. It's just like a really fun movie. It feels like a movie that we say that it feels like a movie that was released 10 15 years ago. It's got that adult drama tension to it. It's Matt and Ben, who like we said, haven't collaborated in a really long time and really haven't necessarily been Ben specifically hasn't been at the forefront of a popular movie in a few years. So
True.
outside of Justice League.
We don't talk about that. And the Flash coming out. What are you talking about? Yeah, agreed.
That's Michael Keaton's movie.
They're both in it. They're both
True.
Batmans. Two
True.
Batmans.
Shout out Keaton. Yeah, funny enough, I feel like if this movie was released last year, like it probably would have came out on streamers, which is crazy.
Well, it is an Amazon movie, so like it's laid out there. We're seeing Apple has recently made a commitment to release a lot of their movies in theaters. These streaming companies are realizing that in order to be profitable and in order for this industry to be viable, they have to keep theaters afloat and have to release things. So Amazon, made that commitment. Obviously, they bought MGM, so it was a little bit of a, here's my background. It was a little bit of collaboration between those two companies as one. But you're 100% right. A year ago, this movie gets dumped on a streamer. The last Ben Affleck movie, The Way Back, or whatever the hell that was called, didn't get any love, and it was just an Amazon dump off at the beginning of last year. So it's great that even though it only made about $20 million this weekend, it was in the conversation. It got great critic reviews, and it's great to see.
I love good streamer movies and the ability to just stay at home and do stuff. But like after the last few years, I'm so tired of just staying at home and watching everything new. I'm glad things are coming out into the theaters that I really want to see, have an excuse to go enjoy it in theaters. I think it's more fun.
And there's a lot of great stuff out right now, which is pretty decent to see in early April. Let's talk about another movie that we all went and saw in theaters, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which I think I'm at least definitely not as high on as Air, but I don't want to hate on it too much because it was a short, effective, fun little animated movie. It doesn't grasp for anything higher or really tries to tell any deeper story. There's a little bit of Mario trying not to disappoint his father, but it is very straightforward, very generic, very something that if you are 5 you can understand, and something that if you're 95 you can understand, something that if it is translated into 100 different languages across the globe, every joke will make sense, every gag will be fluid, and the story will make sense. It's very clearly built to appease a mass audience, and it's doing that extremely effectively. So props to that, I guess.
I don't know why you're dissing the Iron Man of the Illumination universe. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. It definitely knows exactly what it is. But I thought it did it pretty well. And like the thing that I really like about it too is there's just so much fan service. The music to me is probably my favorite part of the entire film, just because they bring in so many of just these small
Not
musical.
Chris Pratt's New York accent.
Jesus.
That is pretty good. But hell no. Yeah, no, the casting is weird, especially for Mario. And then them having like the guy who actually voices Mario, like just thrown in as a different character too. I was like, why don't you just make him Mario? Like, I don't understand.
Okay, over 80 minutes, it probably gets old fast. I'll say that. Like,
I still think it's better than Chris Pratt.
I mean, I agree with that. Yes, there needs to be a balance.
I don't know. I mean, if it weren't for Jack Black as Bowser, all of those voices are just bottom tier for me for those characters. Like
Nobody.
Anya Taylor-Joy is pretty good as Peach because she's got to have that kind of sweet voice, and you want her to seem more like a powerhouse in this movie. So like having that confidence in the voice, I think works. But Jack Black as Bowser carries that movie as far as voice goes. Like he showed up and he did his job beautifully, whereas
Yeah.
everyone else kind of feels like they phoned it in.
They banged it on like half the cast, but I think they missed half the cast. Like I really
Charlie
like,
Day.
yeah, Charlie Day's Luigi. I really love that too. Shout out Always Sunny. But Donkey Kong, like I don't know, Seth Rogen is just so clearly phoning it in. He does his stupid laugh like
It
fine.
worked for me like 50% of the movie. I was like, this works. And the other half, I was like, stop it. No, I can't handle this.
Plenty has been said about this cast, and nobody really put in any extra effort beyond Jack Black to even do anything different from their own voice, other than, I mean, Chris Pratt put in an effort, but it just was bad. The thing about like Donkey Kong is Seth Rogen literally said, he was like, if you want me to play Donkey Kong, like I'm just gonna be me. So if you want Donkey Kong to sound like Seth Rogen, then yeah, hire me and I'll do it and I'll just read the lines for you. But like, I am not doing a Donkey Kong voice. And I don't know, we live in the age where every movie has to have a million stars, whether it's live action or animated. There are tons of great voice actors out there, and that's a little bit of a, you know, a dying breed, especially in mainstream movies. TV, there's still a lot of great ones, but it is a little bit unfortunate to see, you know, people like that just get cast in this and then just kind of show up, like you said, and phone it in a little bit. But it's a Mario movie for children, so
Yeah, I mean, obviously nobody really cares. It's Seth Rogen in a Mario movie. But I don't know, just kind of the difference between him and Keegan Michael Key as Toad. Like that doesn't even sound like Keegan Michael Key. Like he's actually acting his ass off, I think, there. Compared to Seth Rogen, it's just sad, I think.
I described the movie as a whole as just kind of like being set on easy difficulty, because like every task is just instantly resolved and they're able to move on to the next thing. It's like, oh, they meet Donkey Kong, Mario and Donkey have to have a 2-minute fight, and then they're best friends and they move on to the next thing. And they're you know, building out their crew. They grab Toad, they grab Peach. Like even Peach is just like, oh my gosh, it's another human. Mario, you're great. Let's be best friends. All you got to do is complete this task and I'll do whatever you want. Like I'm not even going to question who you are or anything. It's just everything is extremely simplistic for a reason.
I will say that when Luigi gets lost in the dark world and then it's all like the horror scenes, I thought that was great. When he runs into the castle and there's the lightning strike and you see all the creepy red people with the like white faces or whatever behind
Yeah,
it,
guys.
and then
I guess
cuts to black and it just you hear him scream. Like that's beautiful. That was like so funny, and Charlie Day did a great job with that. Like I like that scene a lot. I thought that was fun.
Spin-offs incoming. I think like a Luigi's Haunted Mansion that is definitely on the way. Donkey Kong movies on the way.
Smash Bros movie, I
Yeah.
would imagine is
I
down
mean,
the pipeline.
With how much money this
That's
movie
their
is making,
secret wars.
yeah, it really is. Smash Bros.
Watch.
I mean, but with all the money that is just rained in this weekend, like Illumination is never going to stop. It's Illumination as well. Like they've sucked every life out of the Minions in 5 years. God knows what they're going to do in the next 10 with Nintendo. So it'll be interesting. But like, I didn't hate this movie. I feel like a few down the road, I am really going to dislike though. So
I feel like it was another really good ad, like Air was for Nike. Like I almost went out and bought a Switch because I was like, shit, I really want to play Mario. Like
yeah.
They integrate like each of the end of it. Like you get your like traditional Super Mario World like game version. You get the Mario Kart scene, you get to see the Super Smash scene when he finds Donkey Kong. Like there's all these little Easter eggs and cameo like for each individual game that makes you want to go for it.
Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii. Oh, I want to play that game so much right now. But I kind of like this movie, so I'm not gonna lie. I think out of the three of us, maybe I liked it the most. Also, Corbin, I think maybe you're just bad at Mario. You're like, oh, it was too easy of a level. Well, yeah, that's all the Mario games. Like, I guess you're just bad at Mario, but
But in terms of a story structure, when everything is just handed to you, it's
yeah, I know.
no, Mario's a Mary Sue. I'll say it.
I mean, I can't argue that. Also, his like parents' inclusion is just like,
Well,
why?
all the New York stuff is
Yeah.
bad. Just
I don't
Well,
know.
the
and
ending and the beginning.
I never thought of this all my life playing the games, but like they're those Super Mario Brothers. Is named really Mario? Like, what is their last name? I'm very confused by this, and I don't know why it took this movie to have me think about it, but it lost me.
I believe canonically he is Mario, and then
It's terrible.
Mario. But they don't really explain that. Like if they made like a funny scene with the family talking about that, I feel like that'd be good. But yeah, still not explained for some reason. But they are still the Super Mario Brothers. It doesn't really make sense unless their last name is Mario, I feel like. So I don't really know.
At the Super Mario Brothers 30th anniversary festival in July 2015, Miyamoto said Mario's full name was indeed Mario.
You know what? Fair enough. We've got Raymond Ray Raymond, so like it's fine, I guess.
Just a long story of Italian Americans. All right, guys, that's pretty much everything that we've all gotten to see. Two good movies. I'm sure you've all checked out Super Mario Brothers at this point, but go see Air as well. Enjoy your marketing movies. Let's draw our first card. I'm going to give it a shuffle. If we don't like the card, we can draw another one because we do whatever we want.
Put it in front of you so we can actually see what it says. Because when you put it to the side of you, we just see black from your screen.
Movies with a king or queen.
Oh.
So we're going to take a quick break. Everybody's going to consider and we'll come back. All right, we've all selected our movies. We'll start with Mina. Mina, what movie are you talking about that has a king or queen?
I'm going to talk about The King
A
with
king. Timmy
Timmy
Chalamet?
Chalamet,
Ooh.
who is a king.
Oh God! All right, we're gonna move on. Cody, king or queen? What movie will you be talking about?
I went for a king as well, but there are some queens in it. No discrimination here. I'm gonna go Long Live the King, The Lion King, GOAT movie. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about animation. Ratatouille episode upcoming. Got to bring up The Lion King.
All right, and then my movie, I decided to go for a queen, a well-known queen, Queen Amidala from The Phantom Menace. Let's start with Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and we can kind of use this as a jumping off point for some recent Star Wars news as well, kind of get everybody's reactions, their thoughts, because it's been like Star Wars Celebration the past couple days. So there's a lot of news, a lot of stuff. Going back to the very first movie, right? George Lucas, he had never made another Star Wars movie before this. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, it was the first one. It's number one. And he was just ready to tell this great epic story across obviously, I'm joking. This is the first of the prequels that he decided to make following his original trilogy from the 70s and 80s, which is, hailed as one of the greatest pieces of science fiction. The Phantom Menace was his big comeback, his big return, his continuation of the story. There was a ton of hype surrounding it. It's essentially an independent film that he financed himself along with the help of a toy company and Hasbro. He received a ridiculous amount of money to basically make this movie, and then he would create all these characters that they could then sell. My God, they have Star Wars memorabilia was out the ass in the early 2000s and continues to be to this day. But as a movie, it is extremely ineffective, at times racist, at times just completely offensive story-wise. But it ends with one of the better Star Wars moments in the entire franchise, with Duel of the Fates and in that soundtrack and that fight. And Darth Maul as a character, especially as a kid, is just something that is just extremely attractive and interesting. And like, this guy has two fucking lightsabers on either side. That is so cool. But as a whole, the movie is just absolutely shameful. George, come on.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying. I mean, Darth Maul, I think, is a cool villain. They did give away the the double wielded lightsaber in the trailer, but we weren't alive to see it anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this movie sucks in general. Like you said, I mean, most of the characters are just kind of stereotypes and really, really bad writing, really bad acting. You didn't bring up, Jake Lloyd, who pretty much just quit Hollywood after this movie because Star Wars fans are assholes. Shout out Korbin. He's definitely a part of that fandom.
Mhm.
But yeah, past that, I mean, Liam Neeson's in it. That's cool. It's the only kind of live action Liam Neeson thing we get in Star Wars. So I like that. And yeah, a young Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor. I thought he was good in the role too. But there's kind of a lot of ifs, ands, and buts with this movie. It could have been a lot better. Shout out to your queen, Queen Amidala. Both, Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley really just putting in, great work altogether for that role, I would say. Although the whole age difference between her and Anakin does get a little bit weirder if you take this movie into actual perception. But yeah, I would honestly probably say this is my least favorite Star Wars movie. Well, I don't know. The Last Jedi's gotta be up there. I have a soft spot
Star
for,
Wars holiday special, Kody.
well, that doesn't count. Yeah, we don't got that. Not a feature length film, but I actually weirdly like Attack of the Clones for some reason.
I do
know
too.
that's a really bad movie,
Love
but
it.
I definitely like it more than this one. I don't know, between this or The Last Jedi, it's close. I might take The Last Jedi. Yeah, this movie sucks.
This is always a hard topic for me because, like, my household growing up was a big Star Wars household. There was the conflict between Harry Potter and Star Wars. You know, Dad always wanted to watch Star Wars, Mom always wanted to watch Harry Potter, and I was down for whatever. So I have a lot of nostalgia love for these movies because we just watched them a lot and talked about them a lot, and it's great. I haven't seen it in a hot minute. I know it's very problematic, but every time I think about it, I just like get excited and I like the movie. Problematic in my head that I'm like, oh fuck, I really shouldn't like this as much as I do. It's not a good movie. It's got some problems, but there's just too much nostalgia to it. And I had Darth Maul's lightsaber as a toy, like the double. That was pretty sick. I really like what the movie tries to do with like exploring the world of Star Wars and like giving different creatures and exploring different races and stuff like that. I don't think it does a great job, but I think it's cool, like the underwater world and, like just trying to dive deeper into what Star Wars could be, I think is a cool idea.
Introduced to, a lot of new species and stuff, especially Jar Jar Binks and the Gungans. I mean,
I fucking love Jar
iconic
Jar.
stuff there. So yeah, got a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, a lot of credible stuff. We love going underwater in Naboo, and hearing Jar Jar's voice. I also want to note, we mentioned the Keira Knightley playing the fake Queen Amidala, but another one of her handmaidens was also played by a young Sofia Coppola. There's a little piece of trivia. Did you know that, Kody?
Did, yeah, no, and really actually a pretty good cast on paper. So only George to blame, really. I just keep thinking of like weird characters in it. Boss Nass, you guys know that one guy with the big orb. He's one of my
Hmm.
favorites. Newt Gunray, just classic characters all around. Oh, I know. Oh, Sebulba. No, Sebulba is a good one too. One of the pod racers. Haven't brought up that.
Oh, pod racing.
What's the really racist one?
All the like not the Gungans, all of the Trade Federation are like these like
yeah,
intense Asian stereotypes.
that's
Obviously,
Newt Gunray.
yeah,
Yeah.
Newt Gunray. Obviously, Jar Jar is a little bit of like an early minstrel show type thing, which is not great. You've got the guy that sells Anakin into slavery.
Yeah.
He's essentially a very
His name.
rough. Watto is a very rough
Watto.
Jewish stereotype. So there's just George. He just pulled in all the stereotypes really, which is quite unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was more focused on, visually.
He wanted to create a real world. He wanted to like spread it out and make it seem diverse, but
So he had to bring in the stereotypes because
he created characters of real life people and made them aliens, but then it just, when you look at it, it's like, this is not great, George.
the real problem with this movie is George had far too much power and say over everything. Like he needed to bring people in and actually listen to them. And so this could have been something. Because I really think the prequels could be so much more and so much better if like the dialogue was better. Or like if there just were some other voices in there to help flush out everything. So I do think it's a good idea to expand more and understand the different people that live in this galaxy far, far away. So
No Star Wars is like known for being incredible in terms of its dialogue and writing necessarily. But I think it goes back to that thing. He didn't have anybody to turn to because this was like an independent film that he had complete. There was no studio. A studio obviously came in to help with distribution at the end, but there was no studio there that was like providing oversight, providing notes, giving him, like George Lucas had final cut of this movie, and it is very clear. Now, he is an incredible visual filmmaker. The pod racing scene, like you mentioned with Zvokel, that we haven't really talked about, is incredible. That just like that set piece, the set piece at the end, early fight, like he's able to craft a world and build that out just in terms of like writing the actual story, getting, a good child actor, stuff like that is where some misses happen.
Oh, no more Jake Lloyd slander. But yeah, I think George, like you said off the top, I mean, I think this one especially, you're just looking to sell toys. Like, I think that's really the world expansion where that comes in. And I mean, the plot is pretty much about like trade federations and tariffs and all this, mumbo jumbo garbage that nobody really wants to see. But visually, it's cool. So yeah, I mean, George, just getting somebody else to write your movie and it probably wouldn't have been terrible. But yeah.
Speaking of something else he's good at, the lightsaber battles in these movies are like
way better.
Cool.
Yeah.
They're so much fun to watch, and they look like actual fighting, and like technique is there, and everyone has a different fight style, and it's really cool. Like how that came together and exploring all these people that should know how to use a lightsaber, how to wield it, how to use the Force to their advantage in a way that Luke wouldn't in the initial trilogy, because there wasn't a whole lot of teaching he had going on the way the current Jedis do. So I think it's cool, some of that stuff that we get to like see and experience.
The look of this film as a whole, it was shot on film still. The next movie was like one of the first things entirely shot on digital. So like all of the weird CGI, all the plant, like George Lucas was figuring that stuff out for the very first time as a filmmaker and how to do that. And that's where a lot of mistakes happened. And a lot of like the planning of like the arena scene was basically just like, we're gonna like give this off to visual effects people and they'll figure it out and they'll plot people in and like they'll just make it work. And that was the story. Where this one, there was a little bit more craft and a little bit of a foresight, and he used a lot of those early tools that he had, and on the original trilogy, and an integration of real stuff with CGI and doing that on film. Whereas when you get into the next movie, just the technology was not there for digital filmmaking in the same way. So that's why I do think this one is at least visually better than the second one, not necessarily story-wise.
Maybe. I'd say they're about the same levels. Because I mean, the next one, they got some weird CGI, like animals they're fighting and stuff. I don't know. I feel
the thing is, this was shot a little bit more on location, whereas like when you move into the Attack of the Clones, everything is in a sound studio on a stage. Not great. Like all action set pieces. Obviously, they shot stuff in Spain with Anakin and Padme.
The Sandus course scene. That's real.
The Sandus course. We got that real. Thank God.
I've been there. That scene that they filmed in Spain, I went to that place and that was really cool, actually.
That's dope.
I mean, something about the like shooting and stuff, like Ewan McGregor's talked about it after filming Obi-Wan, when he's on a creature that's basically a horse or a camel or whatever, but looks different in this world. In Obi-Wan, he was actually riding a camel, so it was moving correctly and everything. But in the prequels, they weren't riding on any like live animal, so they had to mimic those movements, and you can visually see the differences. And actually,
no one had done it up to that point in that way. Like it was entirely new, so you got to give a little.
I think that's interesting though, like bringing back someone that was in the prequels and having it done correctly now, and have him discuss the differences and what he experienced. I think that's a cool way to understanding what it was like filming those movies too.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the current state of Star Wars. Mina and I have been somewhat up to date with the newest season of The Mandalorian. I haven't been a huge fan of it. We're a little bit behind, but I think Star Wars is in a rough place. Kody, what do you think?
Yeah, movie wise, I think they don't even know which direction to go, really. I think The Mandalorian has been a successful show. I have not seen any of season 3. I've heard some interesting things. I heard Lizzo shows up. I think Jack Black's there too, right? So kind of just like a lot of
they're both in it.
Name brand actors it seems they're bringing in, which it is what it is. Like I don't want to speak too lowly on it. Yeah, movie wise, I think they're almost at a dead end. They don't know if they want to go with Ryan Johnson's trilogy.
Well, they just announced 3 new movies, Kody. Did you see
Right.
that?
But I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, they've kind of been thinking about it for 10 years and they keep announcing new movies and then eventually they just get canceled. But yeah, the whole Ray New Order movie, that interests me. I think that'd be cool. I just don't know if they're actually ever going to do anything. So, but we'll see.
Allegedly, that is the next project.
I mean,
The
when's it coming
next
out? What's the release date?
I think it's a 2024, maybe
No way.
2025. I don't
Wow.
know.
No way.
It's
It's
supposed
not
to be set.
2024.
It's supposed to be set 15 years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker, which is a movie that I think is awful. And hopefully this is much more successful. They are bringing in a director, Sharmeen Obad Chinoy. She worked on Miss Marvel, which we were both huge fans of. She was director of a couple of those episodes. And she's actually, I think, a 2-time Oscar winner for a couple short films across the 2010s. So, like, they're bringing in someone who just maybe hasn't had that opportunity to move up to the next level. I'm excited to see what they do with it at the very least, and hope that it actually happens. The other two, I'm a little up and down on the James Mangold announcement. It's supposed to be a movie about the early dawn, like the very first Jedi discovering the Force, all that. Obviously, he's working with Lucasfilm right now with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So there's a little bit of a relationship that's been pre-built there. And clearly they appreciate his working style, are proud of the work he's done on that movie, which releases in a month and a half at this point. So clearly they're impressed. I like Ford versus Ferrari. Logan's a great movie. Maybe he can do something great with Star Wars. And then the last one, Dave Filoni, the guy who's kind of been waiting for his chance. I would say he was handpicked by George Lucas to take over all the animation in the mid 2000s, running the Clone Wars for many years, which became a show that became beloved and in some ways saved the prequels for a lot of people, myself included a little bit. And then he's kind of been working with Jon Favreau to, spearhead this new age of Disney and Star Wars television through The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and Star Wars Rebels and Bad Batch and all this different stuff. And he's going to get an opportunity to direct a movie that's going to connect all of the stuff they've been working on TV wise with Ahsoka and The Mandalorian and, whatever else they do.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, seeing an actual Ahsoka like Mando movie, throwing Boba Fett for kicks, I think that'd be fun. I don't know how, they want to translate it from TV to movies or what they would even be doing in that kind of story, but I'm definitely here for an Ahsoka movie. I think Rosario Dawson is pretty much perfectly cast for that as well. So, I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
it's the thing of like, when's it gonna happen? Who's writing it? Because I mean, I feel like those are the important things. But yeah, like you said with Mangold too, I like most of his stuff. I'm not super excited for Dial of Destiny, if I'm being completely honest. Might skip that one in theaters for me. But yeah, sure. I give him a chance. Why not? But I feel like, I mean, every time they throw, hot director who's going to direct the next movie, like Colin Trevorrow is directing Episode 9, and then their next movie comes out and it's dog shit. And it's like, oh yeah, he's not doing it anymore. So we'll see. I have no idea what's actually going to happen.
I don't know. I have no interest in pursuing any storyline with Ray anymore. Like I really hated those movies. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in the origins of the Jedi because I think that's something that's talked about a lot in the Star Wars fandom, and there's different lores behind it, and like getting your lightsaber and your stone and everything. And I think that's interesting, and I'm down to hear about that. But like they keep pushing forward in the future with it, but they keep saying there's no more left. We're going to stop because it's a bad idea to have Jedi because there's always going to be Sith then, and it's a problem. Da, 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 da. So I just feel like if they continue into this Rey storyline 15 years in the future, we're just going to get looped back into the same loop of there's good and there's bad, and they're going to keep fighting until there's one left, and then they'll continue that loop. And like I'm over that storyline. I think it's been told every single time they do a trilogy for Star Wars, and it's boring. I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where like the James Mangold story interests me a little bit more, and it's something that Star Wars fans have been like clamoring for years to go further back into the past, look at the old Republic. Let's see the original Mandalorians in their heyday. Let's see the original Jedi. Like, there's so many great stories that have been fleshed out in the greater expanded universe that's no longer considered canon that they can dive deep into and redevelop and change and really do anything they want with. There's literally hundreds of thousands of years of history that they could, get into. Something that Star Wars has done time and time again is this idea of like retconning and fixing and making up for their mistakes. And the Clone Wars did a great job of doing that to that original prequel trilogy. And to a certain extent, there's certain things in Rogue One that make A New Hope a lot better. So maybe this new Rey story can save a little bit of the mistakes that they make. I think that's what they want to do. They recognize that The Rise of Skywalker was not the right ending to that story, and they messed up, and a lot of people weren't happy. And I think they want to give Daisy Ridley a second chance. Hopefully they want to give John Boyega a second chance as well, and maybe some of those other people, and leave us with a more positive taste in our mouths for this kind of overall storyline.
I do like Daisy. I think she does a very good job of bringing that character to life and portraying someone in the Star Wars world. So I do want to give her another shot, but I just don't trust that they're going to do it well. I mean, other than Rogue One, like in order for them to fix these things, they've created TV shows to fix these problems.
I mean, they gave Hayden his redemption in Obi-Wan, and they gave Ahmed Best his redemption as a Jedi in The Mandalorian.
Case in point, those are both TV shows. Rogue One's been the only movie that successfully fixed something and made you interested. Like Solo, I didn't think made me interested.
Hey, they showed the Lando why he wanted to fuck that ship, and I think that is exactly what we needed to know.
I think they're more successful in fixing things either in a cartoon TV show where they can just kind of do whatever the hell they want, or a TV show in general, than they are with movies, because I just think they try and do too much in their two and a half hour span that you just get lost in the sauce, and they don't know how to actually keep you engaged and not pissed the entire time.
It's all Jon Favreau's fault, really. We can blame him, I think. He started the MCU.
Favreau, I don't want to blame him.
He's ruining Star Wars now.
I blame Lucas.
Georgie Porgy.
He probably wrote The Last Jedi. I believe it.
Let's move over and stay within the House of Mouse to The Lion King. Kody, why did you want to talk about The Lion King as your king/queen film?
For me, that is kind of the first thing that pops in my head.
It's in the title.
Lion King, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I think a really, really good movie, obviously. Kind of one of my childhood nostalgia movies, but still in a rewatch today, like, it's really, really good. I think the music, Disney-wise, is pretty elite. I mean, you got, Scar's little chant going, which I feel like is a little ominous. Want to be king, whatever that one's called. And then, of course,
can't wait to be king. Isn't that what it is? And I mean, the circle.
Matata. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Can you feel the love tonight? I mean, it's ridiculous how good this soundtrack is, I feel like. And it's really good characters, like kind of the growth of Simba, having to rise up, because and also James Earl Jones as Mufasa, just such perfect casting in that voice role as well. But then you kind of have like the seriousness of kind of like this really important story of, Scar versus Mufasa, and then what Simba, how does he kind of come into that? And then you have like the wonky sidekicks of Timon and Pumbaa. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, Disney wise, like actually good storytelling. It's basically just based off of Hamlet straight up, versus, of course, the Disney kookiness of, a fun Hakuna Matata, like an iconic fun song, which I feel like they do a lot too with their side characters. But yeah, for me, it really is one of the best animated movies of all time, I think. And there's only a select few who have been like nominated for Best Picture, notably Beauty and the Beast, I think was the first one. Might have to go back and look at the year here, but I think it's a bit of a sham that this was not one of the ones nominated. Obviously, back in the days, there's only 5 Best Picture noms.
Well, this was also 1994, which is one of the greatest movies. I mean, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank.
Okay. Forrest Gump. Well, fair enough. I'll research the other 2 movies and we'll compare to those. But yeah, one of my favorite animated movies of all time for sure.
Here we go. Forrest Gump obviously won. 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, Shawshank Redemption are your 1994
I haven't
nominees.
seen Quiz Show. Replace that with Lion King.
I don't know.
Robert Redford movie. It's a classic.
Ralph Fiennes,
directed by Robert Redford, Hollywood's.
Yeah, I guess we'll let it pass, but still an abomination. But,
obviously, Zemeckis was cleaning up that year. Him and his Mr. Forrest.
True.
Lion King's great on its own, but it also has a beautiful sequel in Lion King 1.5.
Yes.
Fucking banger. Like, that also is a great ass movie that is basically just the retelling of Lion King, but from Timon and Pumbaa's vision. And I think that's love it.
Yeah, it has a great song as well. Addition in Lion King, they're like digging tunneling song is awesome.
Yes. Dig, 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 tunnel.
Yeah.
Or the fact that all of the bowing happens because Pumbaa let Cass just rip. Like, it's so kooky and it's so good. I love The Lion King. It's something I want to see on Broadway on the stage as well, because I've only ever heard good things about it. I saw Aladdin on stage, and that was a cool rendition of a classic Disney cartoon that everyone loves. So Lion King's got to be good.
Yeah, I mean, The Lion King, it's the like 90s Disney animation. It was just like hit after hit after hit with like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. And there's so many classics with so many great iconic voice roles. I mean, in this one, you've got James Earl Jones just absolutely killing it. And he was so good, they couldn't even replace him when they went and did the live action version of it, or quote unquote live action version of it. But I mean, on top of that, you've got Whoopi Goldberg and you've got Cheech of Cheech and Chong and Matthew Broderick playing Simba and Jeremy Irons. Like there's so many great voice roles in the original Lion King. And you mentioned the music. It's notable to know that, I mean, it's Hans Zimmer doing the music, which, I mean, all the way back in the 90s, he's the GOAT. I mean, we love Hans. And then, you know, stuff like Can You Feel the Love Tonight, written by Elton John, you know, Oscar winning with that as well. But Lion King 1.5 in the story tradition of Disney just taking the stories and remaking them, not coming up with any new stories. That's another great example of that. Kody, did you ever watch the live action Lion King?
I actually never did.
You're not missing anything.
I believe a Chewie Hotel Ejiofor was Scar.
It's got a good cast. I mean, Beyonce is Nala. She doesn't do a lot. Donald Glover is the older Simba.
I mean, Nala doesn't do a lot in
Seth Rogen
in Lion King. Like, Nala comes in to tell Simba to get his head out of his ass and come back and fight for his kingdom. Like, that's Nala's role. So there's not a lot for that character to do anyways. Voice-wise, like, Beyonce doesn't got much. She sings Can You Feel the Love Tonight with it, which, like, beautiful. Nala just in general isn't given much because, again, women don't mean shit in early Disney like that. Like, that's a story for Simba to come back and take over and redeem himself for leaving and letting fear run his life. So
it is very much Simba's story. Here's some other highlights of the Disney live action cast. Keegan-Michael Key, of course, him and Seth Rogen, there's in every movie together. Eric Andre plays Azizi, Billy Eichner is Timon, Seth Rogen, of course, Pumbaa. John Oliver plays Zazu is the other highlight for you.
That was a good cast. I liked that, actually.
Yeah. That movie notably made over $1 billion. Beauty and the Beast, over $1 billion. Aladdin, over $1 billion. I'm talking about the live action remakes. Will the Little Mermaid live action remake make over $1 billion? Kody, what do you think?
I would think so. The trailer did play before Super Mario Brothers, and there were some murmurings in the crowd, being like, "Ooh, the Little Mermaid." So I think people are, I guess, excited from my theater. Probably not something I'll see. Melissa McCarthy's also kind of a sketchy casting. I think you could have gone pretty much anybody there.
Lizzo.
Why do you think that's a sketchy casting?
I don't know. I feel like she doesn't really sing. Like, I mean, I would have loved to see Lizzo. And also Melissa McCarthy's just Melissa McCarthy for me.
Fair enough.
I don't know her too well, but she looks pretty good. I mean, her singing voice just in the trailer looks like she's going to be a powerhouse. So the whole live action Animals will be weird, but it's going to make a crap ton of money.
What do you think of Awkwafina as Scuttle, the bird?
I didn't even know that. I actually like Awkwafina. So I back it. Yeah, that's the thing with like these live action animals. Even in that Lion King movie, like, can you even tell half the time who these people are? Because it's literally just a bird, like, just sitting there. So I don't know.
Well, they talk.
Also, I won't go see it, so I don't care.
I do got to shout out Jacob Tremblay plays Flounder, notable a child actor of Room fame, and then Daveed Diggs of Hamilton is playing Sebastian, which, I mean, you got to get the Sebastian casting right.
I like that, actually.
I think it's a pretty solid cast as far as what they're doing to portray each of these characters. Like, I think they're all going to be really good. The only gripe I've had this entire time is that they're not making Ariel's hair as red as it gotta be. Like, she's got this bright and unnatural red hair, and this bitch just has like what would be naturally red hair for her skin tone and everything. I'm like, that's no, sorry. Ariel's hair is just not natural in general. No one comes out with that red of hair. Like, it's just wrong.
It is interesting, like when you consider like the choices they make in like moving something into live action, you know, as opposed to a cartoon. And it's like you still have talking fish and like shit like that isn't real, and she is a mermaid, so it's like literally anything. Like they could have obviously, like, I think the hairstyle choice is a good, you know, move,
yeah,
but they could have definitely like made it redder if they wanted to. But, you know, probably in terms of like the shitty water photography they're dealing with, it would have been a whole thing for them to try and you know, it already looks bad enough.
I don't want to hear the complaints.
They're not James Cameron. They can't film underwater. They don't know what they're doing.
Honestly, though, what I'm looking forward to the most with that movie is the dog that they get to play the dog, like Prince Eric's dog in it, that comes up and is like licking his face. That is a big shaggy dog, and I just am excited to see a big shaggy dog. Like, I hope he's there because he's like so adorable in cartoon form. I feel like he'll be adorable in live action form.
Hopefully that doesn't disappoint you.
Probably will.
If there's no dog, we might have to walk out of the theater.
Seen it in the trailers. It's probably gonna not be there. So I'm gonna walk out.
Stay tuned for the Ratatouille episode coming shortly.
I love animation. I'll say that now before the Ratatouille episode.
God, now I have to go watch The Lion King, Kody.
I
That's
know.
such a good movie. Like, that's something I love about the 90s Disney movies is I always want to watch them. Like, they're so good, and I don't feel bad.
They're all pretty slim, which is nice. I mean, what's the runtime on the original Lion King here?
I'd say 90 minutes, 100 minutes tops.
128. Yeah, I mean that's breezy.
And it doesn't even feel long. You're just enjoying it the whole time, and it's so good. I love it.
Yeah, just naming off those songs made me want to pop it in right now. But yeah.
Right? Yeah. I want to watch the montage of Simba getting older while they're singing Hakuna Matata. Like, yes.
I actually really want to watch Lion King 1.5 now that you brought it up. But I love that.
It's so good. And then they made Lion King 2, which is not good. But like, they should have just stopped at 1.5.
Well, if you want to go watch those great films as well as Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, you can head over to Disney Plus, another classic ad. Moving over to a different corporate streamer, let's talk about the Netflix produced film, The King. Probably a less seen one. Kody, are you familiar with The King? Mina's choice here.
I'm familiar with it. I believe Robert Pattinson is in it as well. No,
he is. Yeah. Mina, take it away. Tell us about The King.
I've seen it once. I picked it mostly because it was one on the list that I had seen when I Googled movies with kings and queens. And I remember really liking it, but I also remember Korbin being like, we're watching The King. Heads up, Rob Pat is in it. You're not going to be happy. And I was not happy because I'm not a huge fan of Robert Pattinson. But I did think this role made me like him a little bit more. This role and then Tenet, because I think I really got, like, he was a good actor in both of these films. And so I gave him more benefit of the doubt than prior experiences I've had with him. But this movie, I feel like, is a good combination of a lot of things I'm interested in. I am very interested in history, especially like royal history, where kings are just fighting each other for, you know, to be able to rule and whatnot, especially in this age that this movie takes place in. I think it's very interesting, the level of like narcissism and like desire to just never lose their power, and the number of lives that they don't care die in order to keep their power. I think it's an interesting story to tell, and I think all the acting in this movie is really good. And I love Timothée Chalamet. I think he did a really great job playing some spoiled prince to become a king. So I think Korbin probably has more to say because he probably actually remembers the movie a little bit better than me. But it's a solid movie.
I will say that I actually did a like whole project on this movie for one of my classes in college. I took a Middle Ages on Film class. I think my second semester of my sophomore year, when we got sent home for COVID. So I had to do like a whole report on just a movie that I got to choose that was set during like the Middle Ages. And I went for The King. So I actually went and pulled this up to look at my little report I did. But the movie follows Timothée Chalamet's character, who plays like this young Prince Hal. His dad dies, so he has to ascend to the throne and become Henry V. And it's kind of about him going to head with Robert Pattinson. It's really interesting because Robert Pattinson plays the Dauphin of France, which is basically like the heir to the throne in France. He's like the Prince of France. Robert Pattinson, notably English actor, playing this French character, doing like a French accent. Timothy Chalamet, French actor, playing this English king, which I think is a funny thing to do in a movie.
Irony at its best, I think, kind of mixing and mixing and matching accents. It's really fun. But I mean, yeah, those two alone, I think this was kind of the start of the Pattinson renaissance a bit. I don't know where timeline it fits into all of this, but kind of Good Time, and then Tenet came out a little bit after, and then obviously forming into the Batman. But I think he's good in this, and I think Chalamet and him, especially, are the standouts in this movie. I'm not a big like historical drama period piece kind of guy, but I feel like this movie was interesting enough to kind of pull me in with that. And like you do know some of the characters, even idiots like me know who like Henry V and all this stuff are. So it's kind of interesting in that aspect as well. But yeah, I think an underrated flick, maybe lost in the sauce a little bit just because it is a Netflix release. But yeah, for Chalamet, I would say it's one of his better performances, I would say. Yeah.
Definitely a type of movie or at least like genre that I watch a lot of. I've watched Rain, which is like a dramatized historical fiction movie about Queen Mary of Scots.
That's a little more romancy, right?
Yeah, but there's still like the drama of, because she's the Queen of Scots that Queen Elizabeth of England historically beheads, because she also has a claim to the throne and is a problem for Queen Elizabeth. So like the whole series is people constantly trying to kill Mary Queen of Scots because she's a problem for every other person wanting to be on the throne. And that's kind of like what this movie is. Like, people are problems for others to keep their throne. And so it's just constantly this strife of trying to poison them, starting a war, like sending someone to just kill them, like mercenaries and assassins were big parts of this. And I think it's really interesting how the movie goes between Rob Pat and Timothy Chalamet and shows them both of them trying to figure out what to do next to beat the other. I think it does a really good job, and it's very well shot. I think I really enjoyed it, because also like I think a more fun war movie. A lot of our war movies is just guns, and like that's our history now that people watch. It's like a lot of gunfighting, a lot of ships, a lot of planes, and this is like medieval sword battle. Like that's always a little bit more interesting to watch.
Like I've said this, like I'm not a fantasy fan, and like anything that's medieval is kind of fantasy adjacent, because fantasy is often just like fantastical versions of knights and like our true history, right? Our true Middle Ages. But the cool thing is like the final battle in this isn't just like two like warring knights are going to go at each. There's a strategic thinking. They because there's a hill with mud, and they plan the direction they're going to attack from, and it's just a really cool played out final fight scene. I also really just enjoyed the supporting cast of this as well. Joel Edgerton is kind of like the right hand man to Timothy Chalamet's character. He plays this Falstaff, which is a character that originated from the Shakespeare versions of the Henry V and all those different chronicles. He's popped up in a lot of different ones. So I think he's really great. Dean Charles Chapman, who's one of like the two leads of 1917, appears in this movie in kind of a smaller role. Lily Rose Depp just shows up at the end as like the Princess of France, I think, that Timmy marries in the end, because that's how these things all end up ending. It's just like, oh, let's just all get married and inbreed and everything will be fine and our lands will be shared. A lot of history, a lot of death, a lot of grossness in medieval times.
It's cool. It's not like a history we learn about in school, because we historically don't give a shit about those countries. Like, we're like America. So I think it's kind of cool to like watch stuff that's like, this matters to other countries. They learn about this stuff, and we do if we seek it out.
Yeah, they conquered, and then they had it for 20 years, and then they went and conquered the other. It's just a bunch of white people fighting and killing each other for no reason in the early days of Europe. So
I'll watch it.
Any other final thoughts on The King? Timothy Chalamet, Dune 2 coming out this year. Are we freaking hyped, guys?
What about Wonka?
That's true. Both on my
That's
team.
what I'm hyped for. I think that's a fantastic cast for Wonka. I really like that.
Willy Wonka versus Aquaman going head to head the weekend of Christmas. I'm looking forward to it.
Which one do you guys think is going to do better?
Aquaman will make more money, I think.
Oh, no. I kind of like Willy Wonka's odds. If it's a good trailer, I think people will go see it.
Yeah, I mean it's the age of IP. Let's see how much depths Wonka made.
That's true. That probably will
This
bring it
cast
down.
kind of feels like a little bit more of a Johnny Depp Wonka than like it feels like a good mixture of the Charlie and Chuck Fair.
If the Johnny Depp Wonka never came out, I think this one would probably make a lot of money just because of that nostalgia factor.
Well, that movie made $475 million in the year 2005.
Yeah, but it was really bad. So.
Exactly. It was bad and it made almost $500 million.
Yeah, but that's how good the first one is. Like it has that nostalgia
I don't know.
factor.
I have the nostalgia of loving the Johnny Depp one.
Also, Johnny
Like-
Depp was like the most marketable person ever in 2005.
Yeah, but he looked like an idiot.
Problematic now, looking back, but it's fine. I think we all have the ability to look at these movies and be like, this is a bad movie. But like when we watched it as kids, like all of my friends loved the Johnny Depp Wonka. They thought it was super fun and weird. Like I feel like there's a good enough nostalgia that we all want to go see Wonka because also we love Timmy Chalamet. And there's like the parent nostalgia of the original still. They're still gonna take their kids to go see this. I think it's gonna be fine.
That's true. Almost double down nostalgia in a sense. I like that.
There you go. Double down.
Yeah, the movie's god off.
God, that man does not need another platform to defend himself.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with our next card.
Sky High, are you joking? Give
I
me
haven't
that
seen it.
now. It's got cousin Greg. He's in it. He plays a human glow stick.
He plays a human glow stick.
Wait, have you not seen Sky High either, Cody?
I haven't seen it.
No.
Oh my
Sky High
god.
is a high school for kids.
It's got
that
fucking Kurt
are the
Russell.
Children. Can you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to tell him what it is. It's a high school for kids that are children of superheroes, and all of them also have superpowers and stuff like that. The main guy hasn't gotten his powers yet, and his parents are like the two most famous superheroes or whatever. So he's like so sad. But yeah, cousin Greg's in it, and he can glow.
The Ice Girl from The Flash is in it. The CW Flash, Cody.
Oh yeah,
She's like the love interest.
nice.
You should watch it, Cody. It's pretty solid.
We'll do a pod episode over it.
Cousin Greg's in it.
Yeah. Mary Elizabeth Winstead too.
Nice. I like her.
Solid movie.
She's in Ahsoka.
Yeah, she's like green or something.
I know everybody was excited to see her or whatever because they're all like the Rebels characters. Oh, Hera is her name.
Yeah.
The goddess of marriage
No, not.
that threw her kid down Mount Olympus, and then he got all disfigured. They banished him to the forge. Sorry, that was nerdy.
We get it. You've read Percy Jackson. You know about Hephaestus.
Jesus Christ, I didn't get that from Percy Jackson, you dickhead. I knew that before I read those.
Prove it.
This is staying in.
And we're back now, and we're going to draw an actor card, and then we'll take a deep dive into their filmography. We'll talk about them a little bit generally, and then pick 3 specific movies of theirs. Nicolas Cage.
Oh wow.
What a classic.
Shout out to his new movie, Redfield, baby.
Shout out Renfield. I mean, literally, we could be recording this at any time, and you could probably say shout out to his new movie because he's got a new picture coming out about every 4 or 5 months. Let's just go hop over to his IMDb real quick, and I'll just take a dive and pick our Nic Cage movie.
I mean, he's the man who doesn't say no. He either has the worst agent in Hollywood or the best agent in Hollywood. Depends how you think about it. But yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Also, just off the bat, I mean, National Treasure. Anybody ever seen that movie?
Go listen to our episode on it.
Yeah, go listen to that episode. It's a good one.
Season 2 flick.
Cody, are you like remotely interested in Renfield? What's your take on that?
I actually am. I think it looks. I mean, Nicholas Hoult. If you listen to our Days of Future Past episode, maybe not the
Awkwafina.
best. Yeah, true. Maybe I'm not a massive fan of his, but that movie does look pretty good. I mean, Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I mean, you convinced me already. So I think that is
kind
what
of feel like he was born to play Dracula. He's so weird. I feel like it was kind of perfect.
Yeah, that is great casting, I think. His agent finally helps him out. And I mean, his most recent stuff too, that one where he had with Pedro Pascal, where he's playing himself, like that's really good. I think agent work as well, casting there. So more recently, he's kind of had a little bit of an upswing, I would say.
I mean, on my side of TikTok, I see that clip of him and Pedro Pascal like every fucking day. So like,
Yeah.
he's getting his face out there.
If you meme yourself, I mean, you're making more money. So smart move all the way around, I'd say.
I think it's really interesting to kind of look at how that happened for a period of time, like you said, Kody, he didn't say no to any project, literally. Like he was in everything. And he's talked about it. He was in some financial trouble. He had some, I think, medical bills of his mother, maybe, that he was kind of having to deal with and pay off. He is also notably of the Coppola family. He is Nicolas Cage. Coppola is his actual name. So throwing it back to Sophia there. I believe he is her uncle, or he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, I think, technically. So maybe he's her cousin. Yeah. But yeah, he, had some financial trouble. So he was just saying yes to every project. But in 2021 and 2022, you have the movie Pig, which he received a ton of critical praise for. There was maybe some thoughts that he was going to get another Oscar nomination for. It obviously didn't happen, but I think that played a little bit of a role. And then you get like the self-referentiality of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent coming in a time where he can do interviews and he can talk about some of the struggles and why he was doing some of those shitty movies. And he can also play off of that and work with Pedro Pascal, who's a huge star at the time and continues to be now. And then you have a movie like Renfield kind of using that star power. But on top of that, he was in like 6 other movies in the last 2 years. Willy's Wonderland, where he is basically doing like a Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff, where he does not speak a line of dialogue through the entire film, despite being the lead actor. I mean, Nicolas Cage is not afraid to do anything at any point. He's done action movies. He's been in Face Off and Con Air. He's done voice work with Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He's starred in a Disney blockbuster with National Treasure and National Treasure 2. And then, of course, his big fall, I think, was with the Sorcerer's Apprentice in 2010, because that was just critically and commercially a huge flop for Disney. And that's kind of, I think, why National Treasure 3 never happened. And why,
and they killed him off for the TV show,
and why the 2010s were so rough. I mean, Kick-Ass is a fun role, of course, as well in 2010.
Was Sorcerer's Apprentice really a flop?
Yeah.
My taste, I just feel like gets called out when I listen to your guys' pod.
No, it's
every time. Because y'all will be like, this movie is a huge flop. I'm like, fuck.
But it was like the budget
movie
was way too high and it didn't make enough money.
I think it was more of a bomb than
it was $150 million budget. Yeah. Like, think about that.
That movie was 150.
And it stars Jay Baruchel and Nic Cage.
That movie was 100. Oh my Jesus.
And Alfred Molina.
Yeah, that's a problematic then, because that's a way. If that's what they made with that budget.
Yeah, I mean that was coming off 2 National Treasure movies that made $459 million and $347 million respectively. So like, Disney was all in on the Cage stir, and
How did they knock the 3rd fucking movie, dude? That is such bullshit.
Jesus, he's seriously so many movies every year.
He's been in like 100, and he has 107 credits and 5 upcoming.
Oh my God, I forgot about The Croods. Shit, that's a good movie.
The Wicker Man. G-Force, that's a classic.
Oh my God, Ghost Rider.
Bring him back. True. He did too. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
The first one I don't think was that bad. Good, but it's not that bad.
It's got a 35 Metascore, 5.3 on IMDb.
I think it's got Eva Mendes in it.
I'm a fan.
Ghost Rider has a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's crazy. I thought the first one would be higher.
Cody, what movie do you want to talk about of Nicolas Cage's? You go first.
I'll kick us off. I believe I have well, maybe not actually, one of the earliest iterations of our picks. But I was going in between The Rock and Face Off. The Rock is actually probably one of the better action movies of all time. But Face Off would probably be more fun to talk about. So that'll be my pick. Obviously, paired alongside him, the iconic John Travolta.
We gotta check. We're gonna do all the picks first.
Oh yeah. Face Off. Check it.
Mina, what's your pick?
I'm gonna go for Snowden.
Oh, I did see that, and I did consider it. It'll be a fun one to talk about. I honestly just didn't. I saw he was in the movie, and I still couldn't tell you what role he played. So you'll have to let me know.
I don't remember.
The movie that I want to talk about is Raising Arizona, which I actually do think is the earliest one, going back to the 80s, early Coen brothers action. But let's start with Face Off, Cody, because you seem very eager to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I mentioned, the aforementioned John Travolta's in the movie, just, Hollywood legend. But I just really, really think this is probably the dumbest movie that either of these guys have ever done. I mean, it's literally taking their faces off and putting it on each other's bodies, which, of course, there's
science fiction at its finest.
Yeah, it's very much fiction and a little bit science. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, they're not the same size proportionally or height-wise. So when they, supposedly swap their faces, it doesn't really make sense because it still looks like John Travolta and Nicolas Cage with their normal faces on. And then it has the weird duality of acting of like they have to act like each other. So are they doing like an impression of each other, or is it like kind of a funny thing, or is it dead serious? Who knows? But I believe it's a John Woo direction movie. Could be wrong on that. So
Yes, it is.
there's flying doves everywhere in the background, which I love. Shout out Mission Impossible 2. If you haven't seen that movie. And then yeah, the climactic scene is like them on a big boat chase. It's like a 1v1 on this lake, and they just have speedboats and they're just shooting at each other. And then somehow they get to shore, and then I think it's somebody. It's too confusing. It's somebody's wife who shows up, and then it's a whole face off between that too. But
A face off.
pun intended. But yeah, wild movie, really, really of its time. I would say a classic '90s flick, and one I'd recommend if you just want to have a good time and watch a Nic Cage performance.
Mina, what about you? What are your thoughts? Have you seen it?
Never heard of this movie.
Finding out about Face Off for the first time. That's lovely. We'll come back to we'll talk Travolta.
I mean, I like the idea of Nic Cage and Travolta together. I think that's a fun pairing that I would have never put together in my brain. So I'll have to check it out because it sounds interesting. I like Cody's synopsis.
It's something. Yeah, I don't know if it's interesting, but it's something. Yeah.
When it comes to, I mean, the late '90s, that pairing especially works a lot better than maybe now today, or even the 2000s. I also have not seen Face Off. Obviously, like I'm familiar with the movie, but whenever I haven't seen it, I want to dive deep. I want to see who made it. So you mentioned John Woo's the director. I wanted to take a look a little bit at the writers, and the first name that popped off the page for me is a man named Mike Webb. Are you familiar with his work?
Mike Webb, who's that?
I'm not familiar either, but I clicked on his IMDb page, and it turns out that he did the story for the 2006 Curious George animated film. So great work from him. Obviously, Will Ferrell playing the man in the yellow hat, Ted. He also did the screenplay for The Mask, Jim Carrey classic, and really not a whole lot else of note. Laura Croft Tomb Raider story, the 2001 version. Also, though, the other writer, also a Michael Collery, he has done some other stuff with our buddy Mike Webb, Tomb Raider story as well. Firehouse Dog, same thing. I mean, I don't know what's up with these dudes. They're writers on random projects in the 90s. You can go down a rabbit hole of shitty movies pretty quickly.
I mean, shout out Curious George. Good soundtrack. I don't know if you guys know the song Upside
Jack
Down.
Johnson, motherfucker.
I actually really like that song, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, the writing in this movie, not the best, but they have some fun twists and turns here and there. But yeah, maybe not the best career from the two Mikes, but they did their best.
And Danny Masterson is in this movie. Problematic.
Nicolas Cage, that is true. Cody loves that 70s show and Danny Masterson's work.
It's so sad.
Apparently, Nicolas Cage and John Travolta spent a whole 2 weeks together before filming to learn how to play each other. Another movie that kind of has to do this similar thing is Looper, which is a great one where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is trying to kind of do a Bruce Willis impression. I wouldn't say it's extremely effective, but he's trying.
Freaky Friday is a movie like that, where Jamie Lee Curtis is playing Lindsay Lohan. Like that's a thing that happens a lot. I mean, at one point there's like a rom-com with I can't remember their names now.
Jason Bateman and Sudeikis, right?
Yes, thank you. Jason Bateman was it has
the breakup,
to be
the change up,
the switch.
No, the change up is what it's called.
The change up. That was close.
Whatever. Yeah, but so like they're being each other. Like that's not a. I mean, it may have been new at this point, but it's now been done a shit ton of times. It's pretty common.
Well, that's true. But have they ever tried to kill each other?
I think that's what happens in Freaky Friday. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, you got me there.
I want to talk about the change up real quick. I have seen that movie. What do you guys think I scored it on Letterboxd?
Like half a star.
1.5.
I hate those guys.
2 stars. Come on, guys. Give me some credit. Ryan Reynolds, Jason Bateman.
The amount that you bitch about Ryan Reynolds just playing Ryan Reynolds, like I don't trust that you rank any of his movies highly anymore.
This is a David Dobkin directed classic.
Yeah, Olivia Wilde.
Director of
Also,
Wedding Crashers.
The act
Leslie
what's her
Mann.
name? Thank you. She's in it. She's great. I love her. My favorite role of hers has got to be This Is 40. She's great in that movie.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic. She's the Judd Apatow's wife, correct? So that
Yes.
he basically
So
directed
while he's
Paul Rudd.
directing,
Yeah,
he's directing Paul Rudd to replace him as a father because it's both of their daughters. Are the daughters in the role.
Euphoria star Maud. It's awful being Jason Bateman. It's awful being married. Is essentially the joke of that movie, which
Pretty much. Kody,
classic 2010s comedy.
I want to take it back though to your point, Korbin, of John Travolta and Nic Cage spending 2 weeks together to try and figure out who they were. Kody, since you're the only one out of the three of us that's seen this movie, do you think that translates? Do you think that they did a good job trying to be the other?
I don't know if I would say they did a good job, but I think they tried. Especially, I think Travolta really tries to do kind of some weird Nic Cage things. Like he says in the mirror, I think one time he's like, "Woo wee, I'm good looking," or something like that. I don't know if that's verbatim, but yeah, they definitely try. I would say it's not good, but A for effort.
I think that's impressive. Like that doesn't happen a lot with movies. Don't people just kind of show up sometimes, and you gotta hope it works?
I'd call it a cinematic achievement. I'm being completely honest. That's my opinion.
Well, this is the thing. Like Nic Cage, for as much shit as we give him, and for the shitty projects he in, like he is an Oscar-winning actor. He's 2-time nominated. Like he has some chops, and he is capable of doing some good work. At other times, it's a little bit over exaggerated, I think is way free fall. The extreme yelling and screaming of stuff like the Wicker Man that's been memed so many times, I think is where he gets a little bit into the weeds.
I think it's kind of impressive though that like he can have so many movies that have come out and be an Oscar winner.
That's range, baby.
and be somebody that you're still down to see a movie when you see that he's in it. It doesn't turn you away, even though he's got some cringeworthy performances. I think that speaks a lot to his talent that you still want to go see a movie that has him in it.
Nic Cage has a movie for every type of person. We can say that for sure.
True.
I did just want to share one last little piece of trivia about Face Off. John Woo was instructed by the studio to take the face / off out of the title, but he kept it in. You want to know why? So people didn't think it was a hockey movie was his reasoning. So respect to him and respect to hockey.
I could see Nic Cage starring in a hockey movie. So yeah, probably smart.
He would look great on skates and missing a tooth. Let's move over to Snowden. What role does Nic Cage play in Snowden?
He plays Hank Forrester, which is not a real person in the story, but is based off of another whistleblower named William Binney, who like was a fan of Snowden. I honestly didn't remember that he was in it. I've seen this movie a couple times and could not have told you he was in it. So I had to double check that he was actually in it. I thought maybe Google was lying to me. I really like Snowden. I think it's a fun movie. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it to really analyze Nic Cage's role in it though.
Yeah, I just Googled it, and now that I'm looking at the picture, he plays like the guy who's kind of training him when he first enters into the FBI and he goes to his training facility, and he's kind of like that mentor role that, like you said, he ends up being a little bit of a whistleblower himself, where he kind of encourages Snowden to head in that direction, or at least identify a lot of the problems and things. Snowden, I do enjoy as a movie. I believe it's a Oliver Stone directed film. It's kind of right up in his wheelhouse. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that was a little bit of his star moment there, right? Following The Dark Knight Rises, which is a classic KHAP film.
Great episode. But yeah, Snowden, I don't know. I think I only saw it once, but I thought it was decent. I like the Rubik's Cube moment. He really fakes out
he hides the thing and then he like tosses. He's like, hey, check it out.
I really like that. And I think
clip of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Clip of the week. Clip it.
Yeah. Hey. You ever play with one of these?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah. You should try it. It's hard.
I can't figure this out. I don't know about this.
You gotta start with the white cross, actually, and then you do the corners.
Oh man, look, I love these things. Hey, have a good weekend, man.
You too, buddy.
All right.
But I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt kind of really does. He tries at least to disappear into kind of the Snowden type role, because I don't know if it's necessarily on brand for his normal shtick. So kind of going out on a limb there, I do like, and I mean it is a culturally, historically significant film, I would say too. So biopic wise, like you said, right up Oliver Stone's wheelhouse, and I thought it was effective in what it was trying to do, and yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt I thought was pretty good. If I'm being honest, I don't remember Nic Cage too much in the movie. Now that you say he was the kind of his mentor a bit, that does bring that up in my head a little bit. But
Tweed, ties, cardigan, that action.
yeah,
Picture that.
But he probably didn't do too many Nic Cageisms in this movie, which I think does show he's a good actor. He can kind of be in any movie you really want him to be in.
This movie kind of is becoming topical again right now, especially with all of the TikTok issues and people stealing our information and whatnot. Like, our government can be mad at it. They're doing it to us from already. Like, it's happening. So it's an interesting topic to bring up right now, just with that whole thing, because Snowden still isn't back here. Like, it's still in hiding. So it's something that I think will continue to see become a cyclical topical discussion and movie that people should continue to watch and understand what's going on in our government and the role they play with our technology as we record right now.
They're listening.
I can't speak to like Edward Snowden as like a real person in how great of a guy he necessarily is, but like he did expose a lot of wrongdoing that was being done by our government. And for that, I think, I think, despite the fact that he is still not allowed in this country and is considered, committing an act of treason, like I think what he did was 100% right. I think this movie presents that point of view as well, and I would agree with it. If you want to learn more about kind of the true story there's a great documentary, Citizen 4, which this movie is like almost following like the people that make that documentary to a certain extent at certain points. Supporting role, Shailene Woodley, the 2016 was kind of her moment as well. You had the Divergent series and The Fault in Our Stars. She's definitely kind of fallen off in terms of fame in the last couple of years. I don't know about any attachments to Aaron Rodgers and her interest in crystals having anything to do with any of that. But
a strong anti-vaxxer too.
She's a crystal mommy, as some would describe her. I wouldn't.
I mean, Zachary Quinto's in it.
Yeah.
Heroes boy.
Where has Zachary Quinto
Got Eastwood, Timothy Oliphant. Like, it's a pretty solid cast of individuals.
Definitely. Zachary Quinto, do you like him as Spock, Kody? Are you a fan of that?
Of course, yeah. I mean,
not to step on any Star Trek episode stuff.
When we review Star Trek 9, you'll hear my full thoughts. But I think he is a good Spock. Pays tribute to the GOAT Leonard Nimoy, and still makes it his own thing. But yeah, I think this cast, the more and more you keep bringing up these names, I think the better it gets. Other than Shailene Woodley, but I feel like Quinto's not even working too much these days. So this was like peak Quinto as well.
I feel like we say that, like, actors, they're not working right now, and then you like look into what they're doing, and they're doing a shit ton of stuff. It's just like not acting, which is I think is always kind of fun seeing how they transition out of being on screen but still are around. Some of them, I'm not saying Quinto is because I have no idea what the fuck he's doing, but yeah, I feel like that happens a lot
in a bunch of other stuff. You're right. I mean, even like Korbin, we were talking about Fassbender, like, oh, he hasn't done shit for 5 years, and he's making like 3 movies this year. So it's all kind of like, oh, you're working with the right people at the right time.
Quinto's always like a producer type thing, and he's always trying to do stuff like that, I feel.
He's gone more behind the camera, and he did a bunch of TV before, obviously, with Heroes. He always has like the new pilot coming out on NBC for some reason. So
yeah,
he's still around, I think, a little bit.
Melissa Leo plays Laura Portress, who in the movie, who is a real life documentarian. And she's the person who directed that Citizen 4 documentary that I was talking about. But also notably, she was Oscar nominated for All the Beauty and the Bloodshed this past year. She was the director of that film. So she's someone who's, remained in the conversation and is, a well-known documentary filmmaker. So it's kind of cool that they highlight that in the movie.
That's really cool. I did not know that.
That's one of my favorite parts of the movie, is when you get to that point of him working to try and out all of this and working with the documentarians and whatnot, but still trying to keep his location hidden so he doesn't get arrested and, you know, killed because he's committing treason. Like, I think it's really interesting, and it's a part of making that choice that you wouldn't necessarily think of on a day-to-day basis. Like, everyone shares so much now. It's kind of interesting to think that like making that choice to share that put his entire life at risk.
He's like, he'll never be allowed to come back here, and like his entire livelihood, and was, you know, he had to give that up. And, you know, he made that decision because he clearly saw that there was wrongdoing being done, and he felt the need to expose that information. There's a great John Oliver interview with Edward Snowden where he like went to Russia in 2016 to interview him. So go check that out if you want to know more about Snowden and government surveillance.
That's tough. It's got to be in Russia. Like, right now, I really would not want to be in Russia. Like,
yeah, he's been a Russian citizen since 2022 officially. So, you know, he's still remained a figure and has a lot of opinions about things, for sure.
As do all white men.
We should definitely be concerned about surveillance in the age of information. Let's move over to our last Nic Cage flick, a movie called Raising Arizona, which Mina and I actually went and saw in a theater a couple weeks ago. Shout out the Nighthawk in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We went to a little brunch screening of it. But this movie stars Nic Cage and Holly Hunter, and they both look just like so freaking young. Obviously, this is 1987, but it is crazy to kind of see those two. Holly Hunter sounds the exact same though, but she's really putting on a little bit of an extremer accent, but that's still that like Mrs. Incredible voices coming through. Kody, are you familiar with it at all?
Yeah, I have seen it, but it's been a while.
Yeah, so it's directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Technically, it's only credited to Joel Coen because of, you know, DGA rules. They couldn't both get on there. But they basically co-directed, co-wrote it. Holly Hunter and Nic Cage are this like childless couple, and they see this they see this thing in the paper where this family has quintuplets. So they have all these babies, and they're just like, oh, well, let's go take one of those for ourselves because they have way more than they need. And then just all this craziness ensues. It's just an extremely fun Nic Cage person where him and Holly Hunter are basically playing like the American Southwest trailer trash to a certain extent. He's got an incredible mustache, incredible floral shirt, and also just a fun Frances McDormand supporting performance, and John Goodman as well. So a lot of early Coen collaborators there.
He's kind of got like the Ace Ventura look going before Ace Ventura came out, you know? Like,
True.
He is what Ace Ventura was based off of, like look wise. If you think about it, it's kind of fun. Honestly, Nic Cage in this movie is what threw me off a lot more than Holly Hunter. Like, she still like looks basically the same. She just has some like age lines and she looks great. But Nic Cage looks vastly different. Like, he's got more weight on him. He looks like so thin. I was like, is he ill? Like, when I first saw him come on, I was like, oh my God. It is definitely a fun movie.
There's just so many cool things in the direction of the movie. There's this like biker character that's kind of like searching for the baby and trying to hunt it down, and just all the stuff the Coen brothers do with the following of the bike in certain shots. And there's so many early directorial choices that they make, and it's crazy to think that this is their second movie ever, and it is just so well done.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, this is super early Coen brothers, but it's like low key a classic, just like plot wise, I feel like, for them. Because I mean, a lot of their movies, it's a bit similar, where it's just like a really weird storyline.
It's this absurdist comedy that fits in the lexicon of their films, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think this is one of their better early iterations for sure. Like I said, I haven't seen it for a while, but the cast is kind of the standout for me. Nic Cage, Holly Hunter are a lot of fun. I really like Frances McDormand in this movie. I think she's pretty underrated in general. Obviously got a couple Oscars. Yeah, kind of just love me some wacky looking and kind of performance Nic Cage. Like, you can't go wrong with that in general. And I think the shirt kind of is the perfect thing you could put on Nic Cage. So yeah, love that.
I like the flip that it does when they decide to take the kid, Holly Hunter's character being the cop, the one that's supposed to be upholding the law, being the main force and like, get me that fucking baby. Like, you're gonna steal me this baby. And Nic Cage is like this lifelong thief that's just addicted to robbing gas stations that he keeps getting in trouble for. And he's got like the conscience that's like, I don't know if we should do this. I like the flip it does there. I think it does a really good job, and it's believable. Like you could see that happening.
Yeah, that dynamic is a lot of fun. That because it's like I remember when we went and saw this, just the opening of the movie where it's like laying out their romance of how she like arrests him and does the mugshot, and she's just like falling in love with him. Just, all that stuff is so great and gets you hooked from this strange story right from the beginning.
Nic Cage's accent when he's trying to like hit on her and make her fall in love with him and everything. I was like, I believe this. He's got some smooth moves over there, like to make this cop fall in love with him as she's booking him to go to jail. Like it's very solid writing.
Riz game insane from Nic Cage.
Nic Cage is that guy. Yeah.
That guy, absolutely. But yeah, and like I said, I mean, this is the their second movie ever. I actually just recently watched their first movie. I've got it right here on DVD, Blood Simple. Shout out the Criterion Collection recently picked this up. Like Blood Simple, which is their first movie. And again, it's just like their sense of style and tone right off the bat, their ability to like build out these really interesting characters. It's just all really incredible. And honestly, I think they're probably, I would consider them one of my favorite directors. I think Oh Brother Where Art Thou as like this turn of the classic Odyssey story into the American South is so fun, and the music's incredible. Obviously, No Country for Old Men, like I'm not as high on it as like a Best Picture winner, but it is a Best Picture winner, right? Like, and Javier Bardem is one of the most iconic villains of all time, playing Anton Chigurh. On top of that, Burn After Reading, one of my favorite Brad Pitt performances, and just kind of this weird like political espionage type thing a little bit with John Malkovich and Frances McDormand as well. And then True Grit. I mean, Matt Damon in a supporting role, one of his best supporting performances. And you get a young Haley Steinfeld as well, which is great.
True. Love her in Ender's Game. But also, you left out Fargo and The Big Lebowski as well. I mean, their filmography is ridiculous, just how deep it is, I would say.
I'm not as high on Inside Llewyn Davis, but I mean, that's another one that people love.
Yeah. I don't hate that movie. But I mean, The Big Lebowski is probably I feel like, most iconic of that bunch. No Country for Old Men, obviously Best Picture winner. I do really like that movie. I mean, Anton Chigurh, just psychopath. But Fargo, honestly, that may be my favorite out of the bunch. Burn After Reading is up there too for me, but I think Fargo is kind of just like their classic story. But yeah, the Coen Brothers as a whole, you can't really go wrong with anything, I feel like.
I feel like we gotta mention the other people in this movie that are also like great. Like John Goodman is in this, Sam McMurray, Mary Seavell. These people this is a solid cast of just like that are just in there in a Nic Cage movie. Like John Goodman playing his jailhouse friend or whatever, that's just like annoyed that his woman's telling him what to do and stuff. Like it's a fun dynamic.
John Goodman is never better than when he's with the Coen brothers. Like the positions that they put him in and making him just play these. I mean, like obviously the dude in Lebowski is the iconic one, but just like their collaborations are always great.
It's you can always tell when an actor has good people that want to push them to do their best. Like their roles are always better with those people. John Goodman's a great actor, but you're right, with Coen brothers, he's like far and away better than any other time.
I'm trying to see how many. Okay, here we go. I think they have 6 collaborations. So he's in The Hudsucker Proxy, Inside Llewyn Davis, Raising Arizona, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Barton Fink, and The Big Lebowski. So I mean, of course they've collaborated with Frances McDormand many times because Ethan is married to her. Is that right? Is it Ethan?
What a lucky man.
I didn't even know that.
Whichever brother it is.
One of the two of them is married to Frances McDormand. Oh. Joel is married. They've been married since 1984. Like they've obviously Fargo is huge for her in her career, but
she's amazing.
She's always great with them.
Yeah, they're gonna have some talented kids, I would think. That's crazy.
Nepo babies.
Well, they do have one child.
Who is it?
It's probably like the next president or the complete opposite.
Pedro McDormand Cohen. There you go.
I like that.
And the first picture is him and Pedro Pascal hanging out. So there you go. He's been using it. Does not appear that he has
He looks like someone I'd run away from.
Has been successful in terms of celebrity. But shout out
Yeah.
Nepo babies. He's got a good back tattoo on his Instagram.
Shout out Ben Affleck.
Maybe we get Pedro on the pod.
I mean, we could probably get him, honestly, if he's not this big.
He's probably an easier get than Dave Bautista.
It looks like he might live in New York, so I'll have to go search him.
Dave will never come in.
Any other thoughts on Raising Arizona, guys?
I wasn't expecting to like it. When you were like, let's go see, we're going to see this, I was like, I'm just here for the brunch. Like,
Breakfast burrito but then they didn't have brunch, right?
oh, that was annoying. Yeah, they fucking lied to us. But I just was like, I have no idea what this movie is. I don't really care if I like it or not. It is what it is. And then definitely a solid movie that I wouldn't mind watching again. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by it.
I was also like, I was not coming in with super high expectations, but I think it's my favorite Coen Brothers movie, honestly.
Wow.
That's saying a lot.
I'd put it in my top 10.
I think I've seen like 3 Coen Brother movies, so
I do have
it's in the top 3.
Well, I can say, looking at my list of movies here, Raising Arizona is at 92, True Grit's at 95, Burn After is at 106, and No Country is at 108. So like they're all clustered up there of like 4.5 star movies. Like they're all just fantastic.
I lied. I've seen 4. I've seen True Grit.
There you go. Holly Hunter can kind of lead us into a segue of Succession. And let's talk about Succession season 4 as we move over to our weekly recommendations.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Spoilers for episode 3, 2, and 1 of season 4. So skip ahead, check the description if you want to not hear this. But let's talk about it. Logan Roy just died. What the fuck, Kody?
I genuinely started crying.
Wow.
What a great fucking episode of television. I mean, I don't know. I feel like for me, this one of the top eps of the series.
Currently holds a 10 out of 10 on IMDb as a singular episode.
And I'll tell you, I think it sets up the season perfectly, but I did not see it coming at all. I mean, losing Brian Cox on episode 3 is really just heartbreaking because I love Brian Cox. But I think, the show's called Succession. Like, I think the interesting part left in the story is seeing, like, who would take over the company if, he does step away. So in that sense, I like also just like, it is unbelievably just realistic. Like, I mean, that's actually how.
Did you watch any of the like post episode stuff where they talked about it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff about that too. But I mean, yeah, like that is what actually would happen. I feel like in the real world, if he died like that, like those are the conversations that you have over the phone. So cool that way. But yeah, acting wise, I mean, off the wall, 3 kids, give them Emmys, give them all Emmys. Like this, I don't know. I think it's gonna get even crazier as we go along. But yeah, I fucking love this episode.
I think Shiv's was like the most heartbreaking and believable. Like, just like her being pissed at her brothers for not pulling her in sooner, and
sometimes her like emotional acting at points is not the best. Like her accent really comes through a lot, and like she's asked to do a lot at different points. I'll give her that. But like I think in this episode she absolutely nailed it. They all did, to be fair.
She broke my heart when she came in and like was realizing what was actually happening. And I told Korbin this after the episode was over. When they first got the call from Tom and everything, I was like, this is an act. Logan's being a dick right now and is trying to just get his sympathy from his kids or whatever and like prove that they can't actually go against him, because they weren't showing his face or anything. And I was like, that's it. No, they're not showing anything. And then they start showing actual chest compressions happening on somebody. And I was like, oh, fuck. They're really killing off Logan Roy right now. And I think that was beautifully done. Like, because that is something I think Logan Roy would do too. Like, he's playing the game.
He is enough of an asshole to fuck with his kids like that.
I thought the exact same thing. I thought they were joking because it was kind of a transition of like, oh, Rome just fired Jerry as well. And then like transitioning into the next call. So like it made sense in the episode, like somebody was calling too. But yeah, I thought they were full of shit. And I feel like Matthew McFadden, his acting in the episode was really good as well. Kind of just from like trying not to kind of harshen the blow, I feel like a little bit. But yeah, I can see Logan Roy doing that. Like that, I wouldn't put it past him.
Something I was pissed about the entire time was their lack of thinking Connor needed to be around at all for this.
But it's so on brand.
But they think, oh God, we got to go get Shiv. Shiv literally went to go talk to Connor. And so like you think their brain would still connect the two in that point, but it doesn't. And I was just so mad the whole time. I was like, I don't care how disconnected you are from your sibling. Like that's fucked. I don't know. That bothered me, but it makes sense for the characters. Just I didn't like it.
I mean, they're all terrible people. Those moments shine through constantly through the series. But what makes it so great is that it's able to pull you back in and still like make you want to root for them and see them succeed. Kody, you said it. Like the title of the show is Succession. At some point, the reins had to get handed over, and realistically, it's become very clear that that was never going to happen while Logan Roy was alive. And so in order for Succession to happen, Logan has to die at some point. This is the final season. A lot of people thought everything was just building up to a death at the end of the show. I think this is so much smarter, so much more effective, and lays us out to have an actual final season and to have everything, everybody get to war with each other and fight for that, final role, which I think is fantastic. Something that I talked to Mino about when we were watching it and after the show, and as I was getting her to watch the show, I said, the later seasons are so much better because Brian Cox gets to cook. He's off his deathbed. Because you know what? That's the thing. Like the first episode, you get to see a little bit of him, but he's all kooky and out of it. And then he gets sick and he's not really around for those first couple episodes. And when he's back to full health and he's fighting and going head to head with the kids, or specifically Kendall at first, and then at different points, the kids, those are the best moments. And I, am worried a little bit of what the show will look like without him and having his great acting and his presence. But the show is going to have to reconcile that, and the characters are going to have to reconcile with that. So I think it's going to, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how they handle it. It could either be really amazing or it could, be like, a big miss. So I'm looking forward to it. You did watch the after show stuff. There was some really interesting stuff that they talked about, specifically this idea of like, this is how death happens in the real life. Like you don't see it coming. You just get a call and you say, hey, someone's passed away, whether it's a parent or a friend or a loved one. Like no one can ever plan for these moments. So it makes a lot of sense that in the real world, these kids would have literally just spoken to him the night before, just had a conversation, and then you get that call that, hey, your father's gone. The other cool thing that I loved is that they talked about how they did all the scenes and they shot them all, but then they did oneer of the whole thing, of the 26-minute scene of them on the boat. And it was really cool to talk about. First of all, they said they had it set up where, since they're shooting on film, they would like switch out the camera every 10 minutes to keep things rolling. But they used a vast majority of that one take that they shot all in one day. And there's something really powerful to the dramatization. And, Alan Ruck mentioned that like acting is about the people that are around you. And they were really all able to kind of connect for that scene and work it all in it. I think it plays really well.
Yeah, that was really cool, just filmmaking, how they made that, I think. And with the film too, they said for that scene, they had like 3, I think, rotating cameras. Because obviously it takes some time to reload that a little bit. So kind of just
you could only shoot for 10 minutes on film, so they're limited.
The filmmaking behind that is super cool as well. But yeah, I mean, you said it. Look, Alan Ruck, I think, was Loki. I mean, Loki was really, really good. Like everybody's good in this, but I thought his part was equally good. Even that scene of like them deciding to still get married
with Willa, yeah,
and I mean, emotionally, I feel like I didn't really care about those characters too much, but I feel like in this episode, like everybody was kind of on point.
I really liked his shock taking over and his initial reaction of, well, he never liked me anyways. Like that's the first thing he says when he hears that his dad is dead. And then he's like, I don't know why I said that. Like he did like me or whatever. He's like, my head's not there. And then they move locations and they get into this secluded area, and then he breaks down a little bit and you hear his voice crack and you see him start to kind of cry, and it's very powerful and like shows a lot about Connor, I think, and how he like what his initial thought would be and his ability to hold composure around others. I mean, all of them were able to do that, and it was kind of impressive to me. I think it showed a lot about those characters. Something that I said to Korbin was, this feels pretty full circle for it. Like the first season starts with him getting sick and just having to deal with the kids for a little bit. And it makes sense for it to be so early on that they actually lose him in this final season. Part of my response to Korbin's worry about the continuing of the season and like the kids, because those first episodes are kind of rough without Brian Cox. They also have just gotten progressively better as the seasons go on. Like all of their characters are so much more fun to watch, and their dynamics without Brian are great together now. So I think it's going to be still really fun to watch, and I think it'll be interesting to see each of them try and take their own game further.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think this season's going to be insane. I mean, basically every season they've kind of done this thing where they have a massive twist at the end. So that's definitely coming. But I think the next episode's probably just going to be like the funeral, and then probably the next two after that are just going to be absolutely bonkers. Yeah, I am ridiculously hype. I'm not going to lie.
I'm excited for more Skarsgård.
Ooh, yeah.
True.
They can't seem to have a family event without their game playing happening still. Like Shiv can have her wedding without Kendall throwing a monkey wrench into the business. Like
True.
Connor's wedding, his dad dies, and like they're all gaming and stuff. Like they just all have these big life events that are happening, and their game still continues as to who's going to take on. So I'm curious to see what happens at the funeral. How much conversation is happening about who's going to take over? Because like at that point, that's all the question there is. Like who is going to take over? I think that should be pretty interesting to see.
Let's move over to another S-titled TV show, Survivor. Kody, merge episode, kind of. Technically not, but really, yes, it was. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was fun. I'm a sucker for a merge episode. Probably one of my favorites of the season, obviously. Yeah, I mean, pretty much a straightforward vote. Josh was a massive threat, basically from two tribes, which is
And he was telling people he had an idol when he didn't.
Yeah.
So
wasn't sure kind of how to play his
Terrible
misinformation that he had lied about, and it kind of backfired. You should probably just be like, no, it's a fake idol. And then they're like, oh, okay, like nobody really cares.
like show people like, hey, this is a shitty idol. Like I
Like
was just
I
fucking
tried
with
to
him.
make this to fool like Jam Jam, and it worked because Jam Jam's an idiot, but he did figure it out. But yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I mean, the Kane versus Jam Jam just throwaway votes, I thought was interesting. Kane did end up winning that somehow, and Jam Jam got more of the split votes. So that'll be
Do you know who
interesting.
voted for Kane? Do you know who the one person who voted for Kane was, Cody?
It was Carolyn. Yeah,
Yeah, fucking God.
they're gonna leave her out of every single vote. And dude, I don't know, my kind of like mid-season prediction, I think Carolyn's gonna win, dude. I think she's actually a good player. She's got an idol in her pocket, I believe. I think she has a fake one too.
No, well, she gave the
She
fake
gave
one,
the fake
and
one.
then they voted the girl out right away.
Oh, that's right. Well, okay, she's got an idol in her pocket, fair. But I think she's dangerous. And her relationship with Carson, I think Carson's a gamer. He's making a massive move the next couple votes here and is going to take over the game. And then he's probably like final 5, final 6 gets taken out as a massive threat. And then who's left? Oh, it's fucking Carolyn against some nobodies. So
I think they're gonna keep ignoring Carolyn because she tried telling all of them it's a fake idol. Josh doesn't have shit, and they're like, "No, she's wrong."
They
I
don't
think
even
they're
listen
gonna
to her.
continue.
yeah,
I think they're gonna continue to underestimate her abilities in the game, and it's gonna take her far.
I agree. But yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I mean, obvious vote, but I think the merge will be interesting going forward. I think possibly Franny and Matt are finally going to get targeted.
Yeah, that's what the next time on Survivor was seeming to indicate.
We'll see, but there's still a lot of people up, so pretty much anything could happen the next couple of votes here.
I called that relationship in the very first episode before things got weird with them, and Corbin was like, "No, it's just how they edit it, blah blah blah," and I was like, "No way!" And next episode, he's all like, "I'm in love," and I was like, "Fucking called this shit." I
Well,
get over. I cannot handle it anymore. It's like, oh god, I'm not.
It's
watching.
very
This isn't-
annoying.
It's not like we're trying to watch Love Island. We're trying to watch Survivor. I don't need to watch this relationship blossom. I'm not here for it.
Well, must have never watched the original Boston
Fine.
Robs.
They
Listen.
find love in a hopeless place, Mina. Come on. People have gotten married off Survivor, Mina.
Multiple.
Off of Survivor, did they get married on it?
No, not yet.
These two are on their way to get married on Survivor. Like,
I'd
they're
watch it.
holding hands at night.
They are.
Any other recommendations, Cody, that you've been into?
Oh, let's see. There was a new Picard episode, but it was pretty bad, so we'll skip that. Quickly going through the movies that I've binged pretty quickly. Shazam 1, I thought it was okay. You know, better than Black Adam, so we'll give that. John Wick 2 and John Wick 3, the old double special. John Wick 2, like you said in our episode, it's pretty much just a John Wick with Italians. So it was okay. John Wick 3, I really, really liked. I think I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, which is pretty high rating for me, I feel like in general. Just nonstop action. I mean, you bring in throwing knives, you bring in Boban, you bring in
Dogs.
John Wick on a horse, the motorcycle scene with the katanas, just awesome. So just nonstop, finish to end. And I mean a cool ending too. Just Winston kind of throwing off a building. I didn't
Do
really
you
see
think
that.
Halle Berry still needs to fire her agent, or do you think that was a good hit for her?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely still fire the agent and hire me. But no, that was a pretty good role for her, I'd say. Bring Halle Berry back into action. I back that. Hashtag
Like her.
my storm. But past that, I did watch This Is the End too, randomly. Good comedy. Haven't seen it for a while, but goodie but an oldie.
The power of Christ compels you.
Hermione
Yeah,
Granger stole all our shit.
Jonah Hill and Emma Watson, both equally good in that movie.
Fucking
Also
so
Michael
good.
Cera.
Rihanna, great slap.
Yeah, and Rihanna.
Oh my God.
I know she
that's-
said that he could smack her ass for real if she could smack the shit out of him for
Yeah.
real. And
So he got it. He
Great
got
move.
just absolutely popped in the face by Rihanna.
Like, that's awesome. That's so funny. I
enough,
love
too.
that both of them were game for that. They're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Backstreet Back, ending it all off. You can't have it any other way. So love that movie. The only other thing I have checked out yesterday, I watched the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us. Not bad TV. I don't know, the fungi people, they're interesting. Really good, like costume design. I'll definitely give them that.
episode 3, Kody, you're in for a good one.
But that's what I've heard. And
I
episode 2
cried.
was tough. I mean, Tess, the death of Tess, I like her. Obviously, it was only 2 episodes. And I've never seen the video game or anything, never played the video game. I mean, so I didn't even know like Joel had a daughter originally, and like she just died from.
That probably confused you. Like, that's not Bella Ramsey. Like, what the fuck is
It
happening?
definitely did a moment. But then, I mean, she gets killed off by not even a fungus person, just by some idiot soldier. So kind of
Yeah.
like the toughest way to go out in that scenario too. So cool backstory, but yeah, the Cure Girl. I feel like, I mean, it's a story I've seen before, but I'm pretty hooked.
That's
I think I'll binge this one pretty quickly. How many episodes is it? Like 10?
I don't know. Me and I gotta, I guess, get back on the Last of Us train because we
Yeah.
only made it through 3. But yeah, I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
about 9 or
But-
10. I mean, it's good. We got shit going.
It's
on.
also
our lives
really
are
long episode.
busy. But like Cody, it's up to your point, like you've seen this before. That's the biggest thing I've heard from people is just like, what is this giving that The Walking Dead didn't give, or like any other number of like zombie movies?
Pedro
Which-
Pascal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a different take and it's kind of fun. Like the idea of it being based on a video
Fungus.
game
Scary.
and having it be so close to what the video game did, I think that's kind of cool. That's an achievement.
Yeah, that is a thing in Ants too, where like it just takes them over completely. So evolution, man, it's coming.
We are in the age of the video game adaptation. They're finally figured out how to do it right. Super Mario Bros. And The Last of Us. I mean, 2 pillars of the
mean,
genre.
Uncharted, get out of here.
Shitty
Come
movie.
on.
Only 2 good video game adaptations ever, really. Yeah.
Mortal Kombat,
Super Mario
classic
Bros.
one.
Yeah, that's not really good though. It's entertaining, but
I want a Fast and the Furious, but it just be Mario Kart.
I'm here for that. Just get Dom on Rainbow Road. I'd
He should
watch
just
that.
be a playable character in Mario Kart.
Like,
I don't want to see that movie. Let's be real.
Oh,
Come on.
every
But
yes,
movie-
you fucking do. Oh my god, that'd be so good.
Every
he
me
looks like
an
Toad.
alien.
Like early Fast and Furious, like Fast and Furious, the
He
first
looks
one.
like Toad.
You're such a dick.
Hey, Short King, man. Short King. Shout out Vano.
Mina, what do you want to recommend to the people?
Ted Lasso for sure. That just covers all your bases. You got your sports, you got your drama, you got your comedy. You got everything.
You got your
there. It's
Olivia
beautiful.
Wilde, Jason Sudeikis drama.
That's like entwined in the show. Love it.
Subtext is the text.
I learned so much.
Sonic the Hedgehog. There's a fucking video game movie for you, Cody. Eat my
Yeah.
shorts.
But that just came out too.
Jim Carrey, James Marsden. No, but like I saw the Ron Clark movie, which is an older movie with Matthew Perry. Basically, he's playing. It's a biopic, but he's playing this Midwest teacher that moves out to New York because he heard that there's like a need for teaching out there, and his specialty is raising standardized test scores so that schools can like get better money and funding and stuff. And he ends up making his way into like this Harlem school where these kids have these horrible behavior problems and whatnot because like their lives are awful outside of school. He ends up like raising their scores, and they have the highest scores in like the state in the school, and they beat the honors kids and stuff like that. And he like, it's a story of him giving kids who think they have no choice but to complete the cycle of their parents over and over again, that they do have a choice, and that and like if someone believes in them, that'll happen. He's got some school in Georgia now where he like teaches teachers how to not be shitty to their students when they have behavior problems, which is kind of interesting. It's a good movie, but it's like low-key white savior, which is, you know, but it's real life, like, so it happened, so like it just kind of is what it is. Check that out, I guess, if you want to learn about school.
Any thoughts on Twilight?
I gave enough thoughts on Twilight. I think everyone's tired of hearing my thoughts on Twilight.
Go check out the April Fool's episode. That's a great one that Mina and Natalie did. It was a lot of fun.
I think I talked more about other shit than I did Twilight on that episode. We kind of tangent hard on that episode.
They were all somewhat related to Twilight, I will say.
You do that too, so.
Yeah, that's
Cody,
what this
did you
episode's all
listen?
about.
Yeah. Oh, that's all-time Cap episode right there.
I was back. Natalie loved it.
You just were back right now.
Nah,
You've
both
been
of
had
us back.
back.
Have us back.
A couple things, since Mina didn't want to mention it. We watched Murder Mystery 2.
Oh yeah.
I was more of a Murder Mystery 1 fan than Murder Mystery 2. There's a big Eiffel Tower set piece, which leads me into my other movie that I recently watched that was also bad, Men in Black International, which features a prominent Eiffel Tower set piece as well. Both of them are probably not as cool as the real Eiffel Tower, but I don't know. I've never been. So bad movies all around.
Yeah,
It wasn't that bad.
Like a 1 star or half
Men
star.
in Black International was
No,
1
that
star.
movie's terrible. But Murder Mystery 2 is not that bad.
haven't
If you were
seen it.
expecting anything different than what you got, that's on you. Like,
It was just not as good as the first. I enjoyed the first one better. And this one
again,
was
if
derivative
you're
and shitty.
They're
expecting,
both
like,
bad.
yeah.
I mean, the first
It
one, 3
was-
stars. I gave it 2.5. I didn't say it was the worst fucking thing I've ever. I mean, it's Netflix trash. You're right. I didn't expect a lot. Cody, what do you think about Men in Black International?
I actually haven't seen it. That's what I was gonna say. So, because
Oh, right, because you hadn't seen any of the Men in Black movies.
Right.
So yeah,
I still haven't seen the third one either. With Mr. Brolin. So I fell off the minute. Dude,
Decent.
Men in Black 2 was so bad. I stopped watching the series.
here's the problem with Men in Black International is it's not a Men in Black movie. Like, there's nothing about it other than there's aliens and they wear suits, kind of, because they don't even wear the fucking suits for most of the movie. They wear it for maybe 10%. Another 20% they don't have the ties on, and another 80 Chris Hemsworth's in a fucking Hawaiian shirt undercover. It's bullshit. They try and make him cool. They don't make him funny. The only
He looks
connection,
beautiful, though.
it's just stupid. Liam Neeson is in it.
No, Liam Neeson's in it.
Yeah, he's like third build. He's the actually. Kumail Nanjiani plays a little fucking tiny little alien, a pawn alien.
I mean, this sounds great.
I
Rebecca
believe-
Ferguson shows up in the third act as like the surprise Chris Hemsworth love interest. I
I like
don't
Rebecca
know.
Ferguson.
I believe
He's
my
a good
exact
actor.
question when I saw it on the screen was, why the fuck are you watching that? Like, it's not a good movie. It's really bad.
I've
And
never seen it.
that's a good duo, I think. Hemsworth and
They were trying to
Austin
capitalize.
I think they're a fun duo. That
Thor
movie just
Ragnarok, yeah.
sucks.
Thor Ragnarok funded that movie basically.
Men in Black International also suffers from the thing of like, you put your two leads, like a male and a female character, and like in an older movie, they would have, had like a love interest thing happening, right? And like in a modern movie, they like make it so sterilized and sexless that there's like no chemistry at all, and like they can't even like play off each other whatsoever, where they like try to like very much say like, oh, these two have no romantic feelings whatsoever, where it's just like, okay, they don't even want to be in the same room, it seems at points. It's weird. I don't know, that movie.
But even
is bad.
then, like relationships where they hate each other, there's still more energy than in these stale ones. Like, there's just never any energy. It's just so dumb.
That movie was directed by F. Gary Gray, who directed Straight Outta Compton, a good movie, but also Fate of the Furious, a bad movie. So
Haven't seen it.
and then finally, Friday night, Mina and I went and saw Showing Up, which is the new film from Kelly Reichardt, starring Michelle Williams, along with Hong Chow in a supporting role. And then Kelly Reichardt was there after the show for a little bit of a Q&A, which was cool. The movie was okay. It's very like, there was one part of the Q&A that I did enjoy. Overall, the critic, no offense to her, but the critic that was doing the questions, Mina and I both agreed, like, it was bad. Like the questions were just not good. Kelly Reichardt seemed a little bit annoyed by the questions that were being asked. But at one point she talked about this idea of what she described as like carrier bag fiction, which is like in the early days, like if you imagine like what the early tools were that humans have, a lot of people think like, oh, it was probably a hammer or some sort of weapon to like kill people. But like another view would be like, realistically, the first tool would have been like some sort of bag to carry things around in and like to gather things. And this idea of the carrier bag type of fiction where it's like, we're seeing the everyday lives of people. It's the simple things. It's the bag that you bring with you to carry things around in. And this is about that kind of attitude of life. And it's set in Oregon and it's very Oregon-esque. And Michelle Williams is playing an artist. And it's basically just kind of like a couple days in her life and her strange family. And she's struggling and she's got Hong Chow as her friend / landlord, which is a great dynamic. And it's also got Andre 3000 in it, which
Really? Yeah.
she shared that Andre 3000 would just walk around set playing his flute, which sounds like a wonderful magical time in the
awesome.
Oregon wilderness.
There's actually flute music like playing and whatnot for like one of the classes that's happening, and they just asked, can we just film you? And they did for like what was the 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, that's what they said. They just filmed him just playing his flute
so that they could have that in the movie, and it's beautiful. So I can't imagine having that on set every day, just enjoying that as your backdrop for work. That sounds lovely. And the Q&A when they went to questions from the audience were actually enjoyable. I was like, I can handle this now. But I wanted to get up and leave at the beginning of the Q&A because the person asking questions, it was like, did you just watch the movie right now? Hope that you have the good questions, because you don't. It was rough. At one point, the director actually was like, I'm not answering that to one of the questions she asked.
Yeah.
And it answered something else. Like, it was pretty funny.
But yeah, A24 film in theaters now. You can go check it out. But you know, I'm not a big art guy, so that part didn't really speak to me as much, especially like sculpture and that kind of thing. But there's an interest and appreciation for like what it takes to make art and make it happen, and what it's, you know, like living in the Pacific Northwest and kind of just being like this small time struggling artist. And there's a lot of angst. And the interesting thing to me was like throughout the movie, Michelle Williams is like working on these sculptures, and like every time somebody would see her work, they'd be like, oh, that's so great. To me, there felt like this underlying like disappointment, or like everyone, like, because there's that thing of like when you see art, you kind of have to be like, oh yeah, that's so cool, like what you did was awesome. And I think that it captured like that feeling and that kind of like from the perspective of Michelle Williams of like, do these people actually care about the things that I'm making, or do they like them at all? And I think as someone who's like made things and produces things at different times, like those types of feelings were definitely interesting to explore and examine in a movie like this. It kind of just ends. It's one of those where it's just like two people walking down the street and there's no real resolution to any of the problems or anything in the movie. So if you don't like that, then you probably won't like this movie.
I think part of your art questioning point you just made there, Korbin, is like something that was so great about Hong Chau's performance, because she's kind of like, they've got their dynamic is like she's kind of the better artist between the two. Like everyone loves her art. She's got two shows. Yeah, exactly. And she's the first one from this school to be doing one of these shows, to be highlighted, to be sponsored. It's like this big deal. And
Michelle Williams' mom like works for the art place, so it's like a weird
like a
like nepo thing.
Williams. Rough, because her mom doesn't even like her work as much as she likes her landlord's work. It's really rough. But like Hong Chow like will comment on Michelle Williams' art, and you can kind of hear the underlying tone of like I'm just saying this because I have to. And I actually think this is dog shit, kind of. And like, I think the way she says it, it sounds sarcastic without it sounding sarcastic. I don't know. Her
She's
performance
great.
I like
She's
a
really
lot,
great in
and
the
that
movie.
I really did not like Michelle Williams in it very much. She's kind of hot and cold for me with her performances.
A lot of great croc representation. I will say that.
No, she needs more giblets. If that pigeon does not get an Oscar nom, I'm canceling the Oscars. There's a pigeon,
there was a
Kody,
pigeon, Kody.
and it's pivotal to the movie.
Great performance.
You gotta watch it just for the pigeon.
All right. Well, Mina, thank you for coming on the episode.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
appreciate having you on for 2
Yeah.
episodes in a row. You've been on in our last 2 episodes. You've been on them more than Kody and I. So,
That's true.
but thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, it was good to do another KHAP chat and look forward to doing another one of these in the future.
True. If you want to be the next guest on KHAP Chats, shoot the shit. Definitely let us know.
Thanks for listening.
Stay capping.
Peace.
Thanks.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.